walls. High and thick, they yielded protection. Brick upon brick, they kept away rejection. But when the storm came and the walls failed, an invited flood of shame drowned me because I inhaled. Insignificant and narrow, they locked in insecurity. Falsehood upon falsehood, devastated by inferiority. I grew up in a Mexican Catholic home in San Diego, where at the age of 14, I made a decision to convert to Islam in early 2001. I chose to cover my hair fully on my 15th birthday in June of that year, before 9/11. It was strange to my parents, but they put up with my choice. On the morning of September 11th of that year, though, I remember my dad waking me up, pointing to the television. He said in Spanish, "Mira tus terroristas," or "Look at your terrorists." At 15, I did not understand what was going on. I just know that on that day, and without my consent, I was being told who I was and who I aligned with. My decision to cover myself was really hard. When I chose to cover my hair and my body at 15, I wanted my body to be mine. I was done with giving people the right to tell me how to dress, to judge me as fat ass and ugly and not dark enough for a Mexican and too freckly. I had enough. And so I began to cover what belongs to me. Through the hijab, I came to Islam and I reconnected to myself and to God. And I found that I was much more than a body, and that God accepted me as I am. Hijab was me reclaiming my rights over my body after years of being bullied as a child and adolescent, after years of witnessing my mother criticize her body, after years of being forced to dress to impress other people, after years of seeing myself through other people's lenses. But my decision to uncover myself last year, at the age of 28, was even harder. When I chose to remove the headscarf and my long, loose clothing at 28, it was to reclaim my body, my right to be on this earth. And my fashion sense. I did this because I then became scared to expose my body again to the world, along the lines of body dysmorphia. I was scared that exposing it would mean that others would find things to make fun of again, that I would feel my wounds and want to hide again. But it was time for me to face my fears in the sun and beneath the gloomy skies. It's not just my mind and my spirit, but also my body that has a right to be here. So uncovering is me reclaiming myself. So across the board, assumptions are made about Muslim women. We have been judged for covering and for uncovering by non-Muslims and Muslims too. Many Muslim men know that we are damned if we do and we are damned if we don't. When I began to cover, not many asked me why I did it. Some Muslims and non-Muslims congratulated me, and some non-Muslims gave me dirty looks. I remember a Christian friend of the family, coming up to me and asking me, "¿Qué hiciste?" Meaning, what did you do? Meaning to my life, as though I had committed a horrible crime. When I chose to uncover, though, it happened again. Some Muslims and non-Muslims congratulated me. My dad encourages me to say my Catholic prayers often, but I didn't reconvert back to Catholicism. Muslims and non-Muslims have assumed that it is a loss of faith in God, or that it's related to my marriage separation, or that I'm just less extreme. But I never put on a headscarf for anyone, and I didn't remove it for anyone either. Both times it was to accept me, and that acceptance was really hard, because it's loud out there, And it's really, really hard to silence in here. For the majority of my life, I've grown up trying to cover up all messes. I get it now. Growing up, I was told to shh often. Don't tell anyone that your parents fight, Elizabeth, or they might try to take you away from home. Don't talk about this and don't talk about that. And when I did tell them that I was being bullied, I was told to tell the very people that I was told not to trust. You know, the teachers, often white. But speaking that truth didn't keep me safe on the bus ride to school and on the bus ride back. So I covered up that mess with silence. But the truth is that behind it all, beneath the headscarf and the loose clothing, and beneath the kind words and the reconciling, behind the attempts to bridge people together, the reality is that on both sides of that bridge, life is really messy. And there's hurt and it aches. There are experiences that were so crushing and devastating. How could I uncover what's been hiding for so long? And there are moments when we all question life's existence completely. What am I doing here? How can I make sense of the crazy life of which I form a part of? And if I now have children, like I do, how dare I feel the reality and the painful spasms of that confusion? How dare I uncover that the bullying really, really hurt, and that I was suicidal by 12 years old? That getting separated hurt. How can I uncover that I found liberation in covering my body when I also find liberation in exposing it just a tad more? But such is life. And for me, there has been healing in both. And who knows, the cycle may repeat again. Thank you.
As Trevor said, I come from the most unlikely places of being a Muslim, born straight out, when I say the bowels and the womb of very extremely rural East Feliciana Parish in Louisiana, and also being afforded the opportunity that my dad was in the Air Force, so we traveled a lot, met lots of different people. And now, 35, 40 years later, I realized that some of those people we met were Muslims, but didn't know it. Like the lady who lived next door to us, and I knew they had to pray at certain times, but I hated to go get my little brother because their house always smelled bad. Now, that smell is known as curry. So, it all kind of comes back to you. But as I said, I am now considered a Hoosier. Sometimes it depends on who you're talking to as to how they identify me. So either I could be that Hoosier with the rag on her head, or the black people that do the Civil War reenactments, that's us too. The one that has this house, but she got the funny name. Or the article I'll share with you, but some people started writing back lots of different comments, and a lot of them were pretty much ugly, but one of them, or more than one, said, well, why don't she just, if America is not this, that, or the other for her, why don't she go back to where she come from? I'm like, okay, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But I think that we live in a time that is critical. To me, it's critical from a moral standpoint and from a social standpoint. But most of all, it's critical for how we handle ourselves, which is going to give our children either the freedom, as your father did, explaining to you what's going on, or they get to grow up in fear. And my whole heart, and the reason I breathe half the time is because of that little munchkin over there. And the whole thing is for me to try to do my part to make sure that his world is just a little bit better and a little bit easier, even if he does not choose Islam as his path. My husband and I have 9 kids. We got one practicing Muslim. okay? But all 9 know, but one practices Islam. And like I told them a couple of years ago, I don't care what you practice, you go practice something. You know better, you know that there is something higher than you that you need to be regardful of. If it's not Islam, you need to find it. But it shouldn't be in a pack of cigarettes or a kush, smoke, whatever, the thing I'm talking about. And shouldn't be in some girl's panties or some man coming, just his life is a little bit more than that. So for me, what I'm going to present to you about is kind of twofold. On April 4th, how many of you were here Wednesday night that you already heard this? Okay, that's good. So it won't be too boring. On April 4th, it was late night, and I got an article that was sent to me on a Facebook message about the title of the thing was "Hate Group Visits Local Mosque." And of course, that's been going on now for quite some time across the country. Here lately, it has been going on in the suburbs of Dallas, Texas, like around Richardson and Arlington and so forth. So this group, they call themselves BAIR, B-A-I-R, and I don't know exactly what it stands for, but it's something like Islamic Resistance or something. But they are an armed group that I'm assuming that they're all licensed and able to carry weapons. And so what they do is they proceed to go to different mosques and intimidate the worshipers, scare them to death, and just create a whole lot of hoopla. And so they had done this already 3 times, and they were pretty much successful. Then the next mosque that was on their agenda happened to be a mosque somewhere in South Dallas. Now, I'm not really familiar with all the neighborhoods in Dallas, but I do know that the neighborhoods they had been in before were more affluent neighborhoods, really very suburban, and mostly, if there were Muslims in the area, primarily they were going to be the immigrant Muslims, maybe, South Asian, Pakistani, who were either probably engineers, doctors, and that kind of thing. And I say what I'm going to say because I can say it because I'm one of them too, is that in Islam, we are to respect and follow the law of the land. Of course, we have to abide by the Quran, but we have to respect and follow the law of the land. When the founders founded our country and developed the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, then you cannot believe yourself to be American, no matter what you wear on your head, around your neck, or whatever, if you do not feel like that document supports you, that document gives you your foundation to be in America, that document not only gives you rights, but you have also a responsibility to protect that document. And all this election cycle, that's been kind of what we've been hearing is that, we're going to bring the Constitution back. Oh, we're going to make America great again. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And while I was into all the tomfoolery, it was just making me crazy. So April 4th, I cried when I saw that article. And I cried, I put it down, I went to go get something to eat. I eat when I get home, going messed up, I get a Snickers and a Pepsi. So I had me like two Pepsis, 2 Snickers, and then I started to respond. But just to go back again, the mosques that they dealt with were, out in the suburbs. When they came into the Dallas city proper, I think there were 30 or 40 of the BAIR protesters, and I think they said they were met with about 70 or 75 opposition protesters. But these people, all of them were not Muslim, some were Christian, some came from some Newton Rifle Club or whatever, but they heard the Muslims were going to be in trouble, so they came to defend them. And the pictures on the internet that I saw was that they made a U around the mosque so that the people who were going in and out could go in and out with peace. When the protesters arrived, that blew them away because that had not been what they had been met with prior to. Prior to, they would show up, people would get scared, and they would turn around, not even go to the mosque in some cases, because they just didn't want, any trouble. They just weren't going to try to, hear that. So when they get there and they see all these folks with assault shotguns, holsters, everything, standing at attention, just waiting, they get out and they proceed to call the police and tell the police they needed to get over here to wherever the street was, because they said about 100 niggas out here with shotguns. And that they had a right to be there because they had a permit to picket or protest. So, of course, the police were there in no time at all. But when they got there, the protesters were on that side. Actually, nobody was hurt or anything. There were words exchanged, I'm sure. But when the police got there, and the guy showed him their permit, and then he spoke to the other people. And I'm telling y'all, I love little short men. This dude was about this tall, but his voice was that tall. And his resolve and his commitment to whatever he felt it was sure. Even if it was wrong, he was in it to win it. And he told the police, he said, "Officer, we are on public property. We have a right to bear arms. We're here just in case they come a little bit too close in defense of that nobody's going to come here and intimidate us or our community because they feel like it or because they don't worship like we worship." They said we, so I'm taking this guy was not a Muslim either. And they didn't move. They were steadfast. And finally the bear group got up and, they left. So that prompted me I was still sad. But by the time I read the article and saw the video, it kind of gave me a little hope. It just kind of sent me back around. And it reminded me that it was a thank you letter to Mr. Trump. I wanted to thank Mr. Trump for reminding me that America, we want to make it great again, but right now, at that one moment, I felt she was just as fine as she could be. Her curves were in place. Her I's were dotted, her T's were crossed. Her citizens, even though they did not see eye to eye, had their rights. No one had their rights taken or obliterated. The First Amendment gave the Bear Group the right to freedom of speech and the right to protest. The Second Amendment gave those at home in their community the right to bear arms, protect their property from illegal search or seizure or anybody coming in to get it. And the ability to be able to do that, it speaks volumes. It told me something real quick too, because I always tease some of the guys that my husband worked with, if something happened, half of y'all can't do nothing about it because you got felonies and you can't even possess a weapon. So at that moment I said, well, all the brothers over in South Dallas ain't got felonies. Somebody can stand out and defend the community. So America is great again. It's great already. It works. We just have to work it. We cannot allow the underbelly of what America is stand up and present itself as the all be exactly what it is, because it's not. Evil is only allowed to flourish when we stand back and do nothing. So I was sad and I cried. And then I began to get hopeful again that somebody was standing up. That's not just me in rhetoric, that is also Islam in motion. Allah tells us in the Quran, we are never to fight unless we are in defense of. We can only fight with those who fight with us, and we cannot be the aggressor. And when we fight, the fight has to be fair. I can't come at you with an atom bomb and you sitting over here with a BB gun. So there's rules to the engagement. And as a Muslim woman who's pretty much seen the whole gamut of all of our communities and so forth, for me, last week I told them, I said, I try to stay involved civically. I try to do what I need to do. I deal with people on just a people level. That's your first identity to me. Then all the other stuff comes second. Oh, so you're Catholic. Oh, okay, and you gay? All right, but do you like black eyed peas? I got this. So we have to, I work from that place. Everything else, that's between you and God. But when you come here, you're gonna get just what I am, just that southern countryness out of me. And I have had too many family members, friends, ancestors that have died just to trying to defend the right of what we say America stands for. Yeah, we don't need to make her great again. She's already great. All we have to do is dust off some of the dust and work together to improve her stature, to ensure that her flag flies high, to ensure there's no holes in it that we put in it, that it's all coming from a certain place that we need to be able to defend. We need to be able to support. We need to be able to love one another. Until we do that, none of it's going to change. So I told them last week, yeah, we're going to have to fight for America. We're going to have to make sure that the good voices are louder, and that usually is not the case. We're going to have to make sure that we expect those things from our neighbors, from our co-workers, and so forth. Law says there's 3 ways you can do something that to create make an injustice right. You can speak out on it, you can change it by your actions, or you can hate it in your heart. And just to hate it in your heart is the weakest of faith. So we have to be courageous when we do that, but we have to step out on faith if we believe in a God and that He'll help you. Ever since I've been Muslim, I've had people just confuse me with everything. If they hear Khadija Sharif, oh, I thought you were from the Mediterranean. Or why do you wear that thing on your head? Or, so what are you doing now? Why we got to be quiet? Or why are you in the room with the door closed? What are you looking for on the floor if I'm praying? Just every kind of, and it's sick people do it because they don't know. With Ramadan coming up, and I said, well, no, we fast from sunup to sundown. No water? No, you don't get nothing? No, nothing. And so when I tell them, I said, the water and the food doesn't bother me. What bothers me is I can't even cuss you out until after the sun goes down. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. So people who I work with, they're really glad when Ramadan comes around because she ain't giving nobody's business. But as a Muslim woman, the thing I say to Muslim women, we're the most visible. And we're the most visible because of how we look. People can recognize a Muslim woman way before they recognize a Muslim man. People already think that we are an easier target. People come with all the misconceptions. But at the end of the day, when we all have to stand before God, we all have to give an account of how we handled ourselves, how we loved, supported, or how we did not love and support our neighbors. This is a movement. I don't know what the heck is really going to come on with this 2016 issue, but we do have to be about our rights. And I told them last week, and I'm still going to make this t-shirt, this ain't your mama's civil rights movement. Things ain't going down like it did 60 years ago. It's not going to happen. Because right now, I'm the mama, I'm the grandmama, and I'm on the front line with whatever is right for all children. I cried April the 4th when I heard about that. I cried 2 weeks ago And I cry all the time. Sometimes, most of the time it's not good, sometimes it's good. When the baby went missing down in Mooresville, and just by the way the news came on the next morning, because I told my husband, I said, we had to make dua, we had to pray. I said, because that's not going to be good. The baby was, murdered. I cried yesterday, and I'm wearing purple because Prince is gone. So, yes, I'm that Muslim woman that listens to Prince, and, I listen to the recitation of the Quran, and I listen to the country and western. But at the end of the day, what I don't want to have to cry for is cry for my own city, cry for my own people, and I mean that in every single one of us. You might not say I'm your people, but you are my people, whether you like it or not. And I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. But I do pray that when you do see a woman, and it shouldn't even have to be Muslim, anybody, sometimes just that one smile, just that good afternoon could change things tremendously. So yeah, hashtag, this ain't your mama's revolution. Hashtag, ain't nobody got time for all this. And hashtag, love wins. Thank you.